I will call the May 14th City Council meeting to order. Is there any agenda additions or changes? And I'm not seeing any video, so if somebody's talking, you're gonna have to yell, sorry.
Not from the council.
Thank you, Marcus. All right, so with no changes, we don't need to approve the agenda. So the next topic is the public to be heard. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment tonight? Either in the room or online. If you're online, if you can raise your hand. Now I can see the room. Thank you. I am not seeing, I can only, sorry, Marcus, what'd you say?
No hands raised in the room.
Okay. I can only see the four of you. So if somebody can be my eyes in the room while we're managing the technical, I would appreciate it. I'm not seeing any hands online. So I will move on to business item A, which is interview and consideration of an appointment to the Tree Farm Management Group. And I believe that we have Wendy Pringle at the police department with you guys.
Yep.
Can you come up to the microphone, please? Thanks.
Hi, Wendy. I can't see you. So sorry, we're still dealing with the technical issues here. Now I can see you. Hi. Thank you for coming over and putting in your application for Tree Farm. We do have your application. I don't know if there's anything that you didn't put in the application that you want to tell us before I open it up to questions for the council.
I don't remember what I put in my application, but I've lived in Essex Junction my whole life. I grew up here. I grew up on Winona Avenue, and I live in Essex Junction now. I have 4 kids, ranging from 20 to 10. Yeah, I want to start doing my share of civic duty, and I thought this was like a really good, easy, maybe first duty that I could perform.
Thank you. Does any counselors have any questions for Wendy?
Take a minute and acknowledge the activities that go on with all of those children. And it says that you have 3 children who play school and club soccer. So they use the farm. You're familiar with the...
I'm familiar with the farm. Our club uses it less and less. We play for far post.
Okay.
So just the ages of my kids, we practice other places, but I've used that Tree Farm for park and rec soccer many, many years. We walk there. So we do, like we're doing state cup this weekend there.
And how's your experience there?
So I've been there many years, and it's good for the most part. It's good. You know, there's potholes. It's hard to drive in sometimes. It's dusty in the summer, but it's an amazing facility. An amazing facility.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anyone else, Brian?
No, I'm good. See you, Wendy.
Wendy, thank you again for coming. So I do have one question for you. I do want to ask you about, because you talk about your MBA and your focus in finance. So I'm just wondering what your finance experience has been outside of the schooling of what you've done.
Before I had kids, I worked for a company based in DC. I did budgeting and forecasting. And then I was married previously, and my first husband passed away, and I ended up quitting completely. And since then, I have not been back to work full time. I prepare taxes during tax season for a firm. I don't do it myself. I work with a firm.
Okay.
I sub in the school systems. I sub today at Hiawatha. So I'm not really using my MBA.
That's perfectly fine.
I'm raising my kids is what I'm doing.
Great. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Amber, back to you.
Thank you, Marcus. Wendy, do you have any questions for us?
So from what I can tell from the position, I would be representing Essex Junction, and and what is the best interest for the Junction residents for the tree farm. So would I be expected to go to all the tree farm management meetings and this meeting as well on a monthly basis? Okay.
I'm assuming somebody in the room is saying, no, you would not. You are certainly welcome to come to both meetings, but this would be attending the tree farm management meetings.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
Marcus is our current rep, so he can speak a little bit better to what the frequency of meetings are.
Did you want to speak for it? Go ahead if you want.
Just wanted to let you know that it's an excellent question. We get that question often when this board is sort of appointing somebody to be a rep for the community on another board. So anytime you have any kind of question or anything that's going on with that board that you're kind of curious what this board may think about that action, feel free to, if you're appointed, you can reach out to me and we can talk through any of those questions. And if there's any joint thinking that we need to bring back to these folks, we can do that. But for the most part, we've got a number of these positions that this board appoints people to regional boards, and we have a bit of a system in place now where we are just reminding folks what all of those minutes are, so there's easy access so these folks can kind of keep on top of what's all those various organizations are doing. And then we're trying to set up a system where we've got reps kind of coming in and talking with the council on sort of annual basis just to try to keep in touch. So that might give you a little bit more than what you were asking, but yeah.
I'll simply add that, so meetings are on a monthly basis. As you know, as far as repping the city in that particular capacity, you'll also be there in the room with Mark Brislin, who is part of Essex Junction Parks and Rec, Rex and Park. And so you'll also have him there to talk about the city's perspective. I would simply ask, if nothing else, that you approach this from the angle of being a responsible steward of that property, which is owned by us and the town. And, you know, you work with that group to help continue to improve their process and system. So again, they can keep that property being a great destination. You know, I know that they're looking to do capital improvements and they're looking and talking about a lot of other things around that particular property. So you can help give them good guidance as a parent, as someone who's used the facility in, you know, again, how users will be impacted by the decisions they make. So I think that that's a good way to just think about and approach it. And yes, absolutely reach out to Regina. And of course, you can always reach out to any one of the counselors if you want to talk about, you know, our perspective on things. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Wendy, did you have any other questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you again for applying. We do have an executive session that's scheduled at the end of the meeting, and we're going to discuss this application in that executive session, and then someone will be in touch with you from the city.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Wendy.
much.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
All right, so the next topic is discussion and consideration of the FY26 Enterprise Fund operating and capital budgets for water, wastewater, sanitation, and EGRP program fund, and warn the public hearing for utility rates. And I see we have Jess with us.
Good evening.
Hi.
I'm going to give kind of an overview and catch up to where the budgets are at since the last time you saw them, as well as the rates. And we've also got Ricky, Chelsea, and Brad are here to answer any specific questions if I can't answer them. So Chelsea and I especially spent a lot of time since budget day in December, kind of presenting the wastewater budget to Tri-Town, getting their feedback on some things, and also just combing through these budgets again, literally line by line, trying to find places that we could increase revenue, decrease expenses, and just make this a more reasonable rate increase and budget increase overall. So unfortunately, with the various costs of the things that we need to operate increasing, um, uh, the budgets did overall increase a little bit. And I'm talking right now specifically about water, wastewater, and sanitation. The other budgets, stormwater and EJRP programs, are exactly the same as you saw them, with one exception, and I'll talk about that later, um, previously. So overall, we're looking at a just under a 20% increase in the water, wastewater, and sanitation combined rate for the year. Just about $135 on an average household bill for FY26. One of the things that you'll notice as you kind of go through this packet and look at the data showing budget and rate increases is that the rate increases are more than the budget increases. So they don't directly tie. Like most folks, I think, would expect to see if there's a 5% budget increase that the rate would kind of track similarly. So I tried to take some time this round to sort of explain why those two rates or increases don't track to each other one to one. It is not very easy to explain, so I did my best, and a lot of it has to do with the water and sanitation budgets are based. One of the major factors is based on the water that is consumed by the users of the system. So we have non-residential, well, I'll call them commercial properties. Sorry, they're not, I'm getting my stormwater lingo mixed up. There are commercial properties that are billed at a bit of a higher rate than just a single family home, for example. And that is because they are multi-unit dwellings that what we do is we take the average or take their consumption for the year and basically divide that by the average usage for a single family home and come up with what's called an equivalent unit. So to put it really simply, if you have a triplex, you would expect their EU to be around 3 because it's 3 residential units. So every year we go through this process. Again, it's based on the water that is consumed by each unit individually and then for the city as a whole. So those EUs then, when water consumption goes down, the number of EUs also goes down. So when the budget, doesn't matter, even if the budget were to stay the same, by those EUs decreasing, there's less people, for lack of a better word, there's less people to share the total cost. Yeah. So what is happening in this budget process is that the water consumption has gone down, thereby reducing the number of equivalent units we have within the system, which is then increasing the rates at a higher percentage because there's less to spread the total cost across. With that being said, if that makes sense to everyone, if no one's got questions, I can move on to just the kind of hitting the highlights of the individual budgets.
Does anybody have any questions for Jess before she moves on?
No.
Cool. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So the water fund, whoops, here we go. The water fund, we are looking at an 8.5% budget increase with a 15.2% increase in the user fees. Primarily, the drivers of the increases in this budget are the cost of water that we purchased from Champlain Water District. Their proposed rate increase is 4.95% for FY26. They're also projecting a 13.5% increase in the state fee that we pay for water, basically a water tax that the state collects on all water consumed and produced through Champlain Water District. So the changes, the changes in this, since the last time you saw this budget, we were able to just reduce the general supplies line by $3,000. So not much, but it was a little something. In the wastewater fund, we are looking at a 7.3% increase in the budget with a 24.2% increase in the user fees. This is one of the budgets that Chelsea and I took a lot of time going through in the last month or so. So we were able to address kind of this list of items here, increasing inspection fee revenue. We were able to reduce some of the R&M expenses, cogen, permits and licenses, the biosolids land application. We did need to increase the biosolids subcontractor expense, and this is based on the contract that we have currently, which will extend into this fiscal year. And then just a couple other minor adjustments to other purchase services and gas expense. So the net change from the last time you saw this budget is an additional increase of $33,558. In the sanitation fund, we are looking at a 21% increase in the budget with a 23% increase in user fees. This is another budget that Chelsea and I spent a lot of time working through. We have the two-party agreement with Essex Town as well as the Tri-Town agreement for the wastewater facility that kind of factor into this budget. So we took a lot of time trying to figure out some of the revenue lines and how they're calculated, looking historically, reading through the agreement itself. So you'll see a pretty dramatic increase in the two-party revenue line of $52,000. That's basically the money that the town pays us to, so that they have access to our sanitary sewer system. We were able to decrease the gasoline expense slightly. We did have a increase to the Susie Wilson pump station. And again, this was based on just kind of looking back historically at what the actual costs have been. And then so one other kind of overarching thing that we talked about on budget day, and also as part of the general fund budget approval process, is that we have, let me just see where this is noted. We do have payroll and benefits in the water and sanitation funds increase more than you would have expected to, because we did an exercise this budget cycle to really look at where our staff are spending their time and allocating correctly according to what fund they're working in. So you'll see in both of those water and sanitation budgets, the payroll and benefits increase, again, pretty significantly, but it's an actual closer to an actual number now. The stormwater fund, pretty much the same as you guys saw it last time, with the exception of one change following the April 9th council meeting, where it was decided to remove the capital contribution for the first year, just in an effort to kind of phase into the stormwater utility and ease into the rates over a couple years. And so we are proposing now the ERU in the stormwater fund, the rate that will be charged for stormwater will be $54.32. We had originally projected this at $84.75. Enterprise capital has stayed the same. We haven't changed anything in those budgets. And the EGRP program fund, again, no changes since you saw them last. And we did, as we noted in here, Brad and I continue to work on the admin fees allocation. So the portion of the general fund expenses that the EGRP program fund contributes to covering. So again, we'll continue to sort of refine that as we go. This is the second year that we've used that calculation. And we look at it in pretty good detail every year during budget process. Again, there's no senior center fund budget. We are waiting until the renovations are done to see what that space, how that space will be utilized, and what programming will happen in that space. So there's currently a balance of just over $16,000 sitting in that fund that can be used for senior or adult programming in the future. And next steps are we need to obviously get these budgets approved, finalized and approved in hopes that we can have a public hearing on June 11th to set the utility rates. Primary reason for doing the public hearing is that Global Foundries has the large user water rate. And part of our agreement with them is that we hold a public hearing so they have a chance to provide input to the process and amount as well. Any questions?
I do have one, and I'm sorry, I might have to go backwards just a step. Looking at the revenues on the water, the Williston charge for the wastewater Williston charge, it's on in the costing center under Tri-Town WWTF charge Williston.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that over the last couple of years, this particular line item is decreasing, but it looks like a pretty steady rate the last couple of years. I'm just curious what's impacting that's bringing that revenue down.
So the Tri-Town charges for both Essex Town and Williston are based on their actual flow, historical flow through our facility. So Chelsea provides updated flow numbers to me. I mean, they're done monthly. During budget time, we look at them every month or two. And so it's based on Williston's actual flow through the facility. One of the other things that we talked about last year is that the city's share of that flow calculation is increasing due to I&I in the system. Whatever comes into the facility from Essex Town or Williston is metered. So we know what's coming from either of those communities. And then whatever's left over of the total belongs to the city. Chelsea, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Before you move on, can you define I&I?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Infiltration and inflow, so groundwater getting into the system. the collection system. Williston has been really proactive in chasing their I&I, as we call it. And they have found over the past year some significant sources in their collection system that they have resolved. So that is why it's going down. And we would like to start doing that for the city. And that's going to be my focus after I get a stormwater person hired, is starting to tackle that. The other thing is septage also. We take a lot of septage in the summer months, especially. Like I think April was almost 300,000 gallons, and that goes to the city's flow because we have no other way to separate it. So while that brings us in quite a bit of money, that's also a factor. And the town, I have one more thing actually. The town of Essex this summer is also going to be installing another meter, so we have an exact, we know exactly what's coming from Susie Wilson Pump Station, which is just about 100% of their flow. They're gonna be putting that in the Pearl Street jug handle. So we'll have almost all of the town of Essex flow metered, whereas right now they use water meter for that calculation, water meter usage. So that will also help. And then when we do retrofit West Street, we will have a flow meter installed as part of that project. So that will also help know flows between town and city in that part of the junction.
Great, thank you. As a follow-up, but as an aside, with the development that's going on in Williston, is there opportunity in the future for us? For additional revenues potentially?
Do you mean for waste for like sewer charges?
Yeah.
I mean, there will be additional revenue, but there's also additional expense to treat
Yeah.
what comes into the facility. So
If Williston needs more flow, they're saying that they still have about 20 years of flow. I don't know 100% if that is the case, but we would need to have upgrade and add capacity to the facility. That would be, yeah.
I think the I&I is, it's not good for a lot of reasons, but you don't want to be running groundwater infiltration through your wastewater treatment plant unnecessarily. And so it's logical for all three communities, and anybody who's got a wastewater treatment facility, to really tighten that up. Also, you want your pipes to be functioning properly, not getting a little leakage in there. So that level of flow is just interesting because it is part of the flow, so it comes into our system, and it's how the costs of the whole facility are split out between the three communities. So tightening that up helps, and you sort of see that coming down in Williston because they've been more proactive at doing that work than the other two. But the actual capacity, more housing, more development in Williston, over time is likely going to increase. It's likely going to increase in all three communities. The expenses are going to also increase, and so it's
Yes. Yes. Understood.
yeah, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I will just add one quick note that historically, if Williston wants more capacity, and there's been a few projects that have been done at the facility that have been paid for by Williston to gain more capacity, then that they then get first dibs on. But there has been history of that.
Nothing else from the room.
Thank you. I guess I can open it up to the public. Is there anybody online that has any questions?
In the room, Amber, just so you know.
Thank you. That's what I assumed. I am not seeing any hands online, so I'll bring it back to us. If there's no other questions, then I'll entertain. There are two motions, it looks like. Somebody wants to take those.
Stab on here, see it's fine.
On page 4 in the packet.
Oh, he's 4. I knew that. So I make a motion to approve the FY26 Enterprise Fund operating capital budgets for water, wastewater, sanitation, stormwater, and EJRP program fund as presented. And also make a motion to warn a public hearing on June 11th, 2025 for the FY26 rate setting for water, wastewater, sanitation, and stormwater funds.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 No nays?
No.
Okay. I think we're all set on that. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you,
And
everybody.
everybody else, Ricky, Brad, Chelsea. Okay. Getting back to my agenda here. Believe the next discussion topic is council orientation presentation done by our very own Regina Mahoney.
Hopefully these slides are going to show okay. Wanted to do it from my other computer, but one or the other keeps getting kicked out of Zoom. So we'll go with this method. And Amber, please feel free if there's anything you want to chime in on as we're going through here, please do. Okay, so we are in the practice of doing this presentation at the first meeting of May when we've got first, usually we would organize this night too, but we did that on May 1st with the Planning Commission joint meeting. So helpful, I think, just to give this presentation, just to sort of ground folks in a number of different things in terms of some of your kind of overarching organizing documents that we use, as well as talk through some of the council manager form of government components, and then just a little bit about the organization and the budget as well. So feel free to stop and ask questions at any point along the way here. So our demographics, important thing just to keep in mind about these are, a lot of this is from the community survey from the census. Those are, can be quite inaccurate here in Vermont based on our very small sample size set. So just keep that in mind. And some of these figures will shift a decent amount because of that. But for the most part, generally speaking, that household income is higher than Vermont average household income. And that housing unit number, if you recall, when we were talking with the Planning Commission on May 1st, that's roughly what our number is now. And that high-end housing target number is almost that same number. So really talking about doubling when you look at that high number. Also just want to point out that we really have seen a lot more folks moving into the state of Vermont that are not native English speakers. And so continuing to see that number increase. And I think important thing for us to kind of keep in mind in terms of making sure that as we are communicating out to folks, we are starting to think about potentially doing some translating. Okay, this guy's kind of fitting on here pretty good, but no one needs to look at this in detail, but we've got your comprehensive plan. That is the plan that really talks about the bigger sort of vision for the city as a whole. When you think about all components of the city, and this is a state document, we work on this every 8 years. The last one was done in 2019. And so the Planning Commission, starting right in FY26, will be getting going on this document. The comprehensive plan is approved by the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. That is an optional step in the state of Vermont, but it is very helpful and good to be coordinated with that regional group. And it gives us better points on grant programs and different kinds of things. So just put in here a few of the slides from this comprehensive plan. You can see thoughtful growth, safety, local economy, education, health and recreation. These are your heart and soul themes. What we will likely do when we move into the new comprehensive plan update is we will shift those themes to your strategic planning themes that you just approved through your strategic planning process. They pretty much match up, and there are state required topics in this plan, and so the content will be the same. It's really about kind of how we organize it and sort of bring our focus to different parts of it. This is the vision that is in your new strategic action plan document. So community-led economic development approach, investment in public good and shared amenities for really to create a desirable living condition, and a focus on community vitality across the city. These are the 6 pillars from your strategic action plan. So again, these are likely what we'll sort of rethink about for the comprehensive plan and kind of organize under these 6.
Just out of curiosity, and this is an aside. In future, not this upcoming process, in future, is there a way to align them so that you could do the strategic vision comprehensive in one versus doing 3 or 2 processes over 2 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the comprehensive plan ends up being, I'm just going to throw these heights out. They may not be precise. The comprehensive plan is like a 30,000 foot view.
Yeah.
The strategic plan actually kind of brings you down a little bit more focused on what we're actually going to do. So maybe like 10,000 foot view. If we were to start everything from scratch, first we start with the comprehensive plan and we use that to guide us to those 6, what are those high priority 6 themes.
Yep.
So that just the sort of theme and kind of overall priority setting is done through this process because the comprehensive plan wasn't ready to go yet and we didn't need to do that level, if that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. This is how those 6 pillars were ranked in that strategic planning process. So just as a reminder, housing and urban design is at the top, then economic development, then public services and facilities. Community engagement is at the bottom there. I'm not quite sure why those aren't sitting in order in this graph. Then transportation, then environmental stewardship. One thing to keep in mind about these pillars is so much of the actual work that we do to achieve some of these have multiple cross purposes within them. So just because we may be focusing on housing, that does not mean we're not addressing energy. And in fact, I would say from a very high view, we have an excellent sustainable design pattern here in the city with infrastructure in place and the continued focus on increasing density within the parts of the city, especially where we have transit. All of those things can help achieve climate change and mitigating climate change and addressing energy because we are focused as opposed to a more sprawled land use pattern that does not achieve those goals, if that helps. Then this slide, don't need to focus on this too much, but this kind of gets into a deeper level of actions that we had identified under the 6 level pillars.
Can you explain what this graph is showing? It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing. So on the left-hand side there of you've got action 6, action 7. Those are the various actions that are from the strategic plan. This prioritization is showing the dots that are farthest to the left were prioritized to do them first. So the top of the graph, more to the left, is the highest priority action that came up. So that is provide responsible, open, and transparent government. Then really the other thing that this slide says to me is, so you've got a few outliers at the top for actions that people really wanted to see, like, let's get focused on this right away. Then the rest are sort of like in line, like equally prioritized,
So
if that makes sense.
yes, except that this is, so what I heard you say is these actions are cross-referenced to a document that I don't have. And that's why it didn't make any sense to me.
It's in the strategic plan that,
Not here at least, so yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I can look that up.
I think we've given you the strategic plan.
Yes,
but
yeah. Yep,
okay.
got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
These are all screenshots from that document. Oh, I went the wrong way. Okay, council manager, form of government. I can go through these slides fairly quickly, but I put some new ones in here just because I think it helps get a little bit at the nuance of, from a high level, you set the policy, I carry out the operations in order to achieve the policy and goals that you set out. Council authority specifically. So you hire the city manager, you appoint city attorney, city clerk, and zoning administrator. You appoint residents to your boards, serve as the liquor control board, which you are tonight under your consent agenda to approve liquor licenses. Make, amend, and repeal ordinances. Any property transfers, sales come your way. Judiciary oversight. So we prepare a budget, we provide it to you. You get that to a point that you are comfortable putting that forward to the voters. You ensure that we have an audit, independent audit done every year to make sure everything is working, and convene public forums for various topics that you want to get feedback on. On the manager side, I act as your chief administrative officer. I prepare those budgets, oversee ordinance enforcement, serve as the personnel director, hire, manage, and fire, if needed, staff, and regularly report to you folks on finances and operations so that you know how things are going. And I serve as your primary support. This is just a helpful slide to know. These positions in state statute are authorized and have the enabling statute to do very specific things. So even if the council did not like what one of these folks were doing, they have to follow state law in what they do. So this is a slide that I think is somewhat helpful, but also kind of confusing. And so that's why I've added a few others here. So essentially on the left-hand side, that really describes the council's role in these four topic areas: mission, policy, administration, and management. So you can see that black curve flowing through those four boxes. And really in terms of setting the mission of the organization, that is, while I can support you in that, that's really your work and your role. And so that's, a document that we can see how that just played out is the strategic plan that we just did. Then coming from that, well, you've got that sort of vision, mission is policy setting. And really this is, I think, showing the level of work that kind of goes into setting up those policies for you, the research and, recommending what is the right way to go is on the manager side on the right, but really those decisions are the council's. Then administration and management of the organization is in the manager's sphere there. In your SharePoint folder, I put this whole article. So if you want to get some more information on where this slide is coming from, you can go on your SharePoint folder and see this whole article. I think it does a good job of explaining the variety of roles that you folks have as council members. So strategic visioning, really what's important. And this is interesting because what's important in the short term. So that kind of explains that difference between the comp plan and the strategic plan. Representative constituent advocate. And so one thing to explain a little bit about this article, it'll make more sense when you read it, but these folks have done a lot of work with legislative bodies over time, and they've kind of developed these 6 roles, and they do a lot of work surveying and seeing where most people would categorize themselves. You know, it's almost sort of like a strength. This is, you know, one place that you may do some more work in than another. But the idea is that all of these are an important aspect of your role. But you might play these roles at various points in different things, depending on what's in front of you. Answering calls and emails from residents, and we've got some other slides further back. Anything operationally, the best thing to do is just send them our way. You folks are probably not going to have the nitty-gritty and the details of kind of what's going on and why. So the best way to do that is to send operational questions my way. Trustee steward, this is really the big sort of budget piece, and really what the impact is of that budget on residents. Decision maker and community builder, which I think is a lot of what we've heard and are trying to figure out how to really do better, right, collectively as a community. And we'll spend some time talking about that at the retreat, I think. And then oversight, you've got your evaluation of the manager. Sorry, this is slightly falling down. Can't quite see the bottom of that, but the point is there. So the other part of this article includes what the manager's role is in order to help you folks do that job for the community. So intentionally plan opportunities for the governing body to fulfill each of those roles. Create systems for efficiently addressing constituent concerns. So when you send those questions to me, doing our best to respond as quickly as we can, and making sure that we're letting you have some kind of feedback loop so you know that we answered it and what we answered. So that could be helpful. Making sure that we are referring to strategic plans and long-range planning as we are trying to figure out our daily work so that we are working towards those goals. And connecting agenda items directly to those priorities. So an example of that, if folks are familiar, is what the school board agendas look like. They have their, they kind of have it categorized where it goes back to their sort of strategic plan in terms of each business item. So there's things that we can think about doing that differently. Discuss both short and long-term consequences of actions. I think we do this through your memo, through the memo that we're providing to you. We could think about maybe doing that a little bit better as a prompt so that we're kind of doing that, but that's really the point of the discussion piece of each memo that comes your way. Support you all in establishing your ground rules, and we've done that, rules of procedure, the communication policy, all those kinds of things. And then demonstrate accountability by updating you all on the status of priorities. So we will be doing that as part of the retreat as well. And that's part of that kind of cyclical system that we've put into place where we've got the work plans and the metrics and the whole thing. So that's that. And looking forward to continuing to figure out how to, keep improving how we're doing things. So communicating with staff, again, any questions that you folks get, you can send my way. Any questions that any of you all have yourselves as a question, we've talked about this before. If you've got a particular question that makes sense that that's a direct question to a department head, that is okay, so long as you CC me. But for the most part, if you've got constituent questions, easiest way to handle that is to send that over to me, and then we can figure that out from there. Emergency situations, we will do our best to keep you folks informed as quickly as we can. Sometimes emergencies are sort of taking our full attention, and also for the most part, I am not the person directly dealing with an emergency when it's happening. And so really we're giving the folks that are responding to the emergency the time to do what they need to do before informing me, so then before I inform you. So some of that does not happen immediately. So just to make that point there. So we've got your rules of procedure. I think everybody's pretty familiar with this at this point because we've worked on these a few times, but essentially we now have our new slate is Amber as president, Marcus vice president, Tim as clerk. There's 5 of you, so there is a quorum of 3. Anytime there are 3 of you collectively together, we need to have an agenda for that if you are doing any kind of business at all. And Amber and I work together to set the agenda. And this is roughly the outline of what your agendas look like and how they are organized. Transparency and open meeting law, communication, with the exception of executive session, is all open to open meeting law and FOIA requests and public. So good to use your essexjunction.org email when you are conducting business for the city. And we've said that already. Whenever we do have 3 or more of you, we do need to make sure that we have an agenda for that, and no business should be conducted in that circumstance if we do not have a properly warned agenda. And executive session content must be kept private and only discussed in the executive session itself. Open meeting law changes. So we have talked about this already quite a bit as a group. In 2024, the open meeting law has changed, and really this was changed as a result of kind of coming out of COVID and trying to figure out how to run open meetings with some evolution from the things that were working great during COVID, and how do we then marry these systems together. So decision-making bodies are defined as non-advisory bodies in this law, which is a little bit confusing, that terminology, but really for us, that's the city council, DRB, library trustees, and the BCA. You have to have a physical meeting space. That's the requirement. Hybrid is great if you can do it, but we must have a physical meeting space, which means we cannot have only virtual meetings, which we did have for a little bit there through COVID. Then we have added the open meeting law complaint process onto our website. There's a whole area where folks can go there if they've got any issues or want to see more about what this law says. And then beginning January 1, there is a required training for managers, municipal managers, as well as the chairs of the legislative bodies. So at the very least, at least this presentation reminds me I got to do that training, and I did when I put this together. So that's exciting. Municipal Code of Ethics, again, we have also talked about this recently because we just updated the Municipal Code of Ethics, which is now codified in state statute. We've got that into our personnel regulations. We have also asked all staff to become familiar with that, as well as all of our boards and committees. In addition, there is a new training requirement on this topic as well. It is required every 3 years. We rolled it out here as we wanted to make sure everybody was aware of this and knew it, and put it on an annual basis. We may adjust that as we're going forward to see what really makes the most sense. As I think everybody's heard a bit, that was a little bit clunky how you actually do that on the state website, but I think overall really helpful that we've got this. So boards and committees, these are all of them that you've got. The top left corner there are all of your committees that you have in your charter. Bottom left are those regional organizations that we have representation on. Top right are all really more in the category of advisory committees to you. And then the bottom right are the myriad of committees that we have thought about and discussed and heard in terms of trying to think through when we may need additional groups. So we will talk about this at your retreat as well. One thing I will just say as an opportunity, with the comprehensive planning work coming up, and that's kind of all encompassing, it talks about all kinds of different things. It may make sense that we think about a kind of subcommittee structure of the Planning Commission, so we can get some other people who are interested in these particular topics working in some subgroups with a Planning Commission member or two to think through some of these topics. Here's our org chart. We have 10 departments in the city. We have 2 departments that we share with the town. That's the police department and the assessing department. The assessing shared agreement with the town goes through the end of reappraisal. So this is something that we've got to think through about next steps. So we will be talking about that later. Then we have 3 other outside contracts. So we've got Hamlin, the city engineer is Hamlin Engineering, city attorney is with Moynihan Safar, Claudine Safar, and then we have Open Approach as our managed service provider for IT.
On those 3, when are those contracts, when do those contracts come up?
So we typically look at this the second meeting in May, I want to say. It comes up, we sort of look at those every spring. None of these have actual contracts for set time periods. And those 3, I'm pretty sure, those are appointments of mine. But we do it at the same time in terms of the clerk appointment that are yours. We kind of put that in a whole memo, and I'm pretty sure it's the second meeting in May, but I could be wrong about that. But it's coming up, either May or June. Here's your facilities that you've got. Actually, so apologies. This slide has been updated. And this is the board packet because I couldn't get the updated presentation from my other computer. The only thing we updated on here is we did not include the tree farm itself. So that is also a facility co-owned with the town of Essex. Also the Essex dog park, that is the state facility on West Street, but also it's the community gardens as well. So it's not just the dog park. May have made one other edit, but we'll get that out to you so you know what that is. Also, this presentation, what we've been doing with it when we're done with this meeting is we post it on the city council webpage itself so people can see it and refer back to it, because it does have links in it. So it's kind of a helpful guiding document. So we will put the revised version up there. Budget. This is for the FY26 budget, so you have seen this quite a bit already. Don't need to go into too much detail on it here, but just know that it's here in case you're looking for it as a kind of a quick resource. This is the revenue picture. This is the expense picture, and again, these are the kind of better aligned groupings, so somebody can kind of comprehend what this is a little bit better than the other 18 categories. Purchasing, this is helpful to think about just in the sense of for grants, if we are applying for a grant, if it requires a match, we bring that forward to the council. If it doesn't require a match, the manager can apply for that grant directly. And then we consider $40,000 as major expenses for purchases. So those come to you folks. Otherwise, I can approve those. The purchasing policy is a document that we very much want to brush off and really take a look at. And my understanding is that VLCT is working on a model purchasing policy right now, which I think will be really, really helpful. Priority projects. You folks are familiar with everything on this list here. Want to point out the capital plan on the side. So that is what you see in the budget every year is the list of projects and the very kind of long, wide years out of when some of those projects are slated for. What we've linked to here is a little bit more detail of what all of those projects are. So that's what your capital program review committee really takes a look at, and that's how they prioritize the list. So if you want to get a little bit more insight into what project AAA, for example, might be, you can go there. Then also pointing out on the bottom right paragraph there, this is a very small list of things that the city is working on. There's a lot of other stuff, and you can really see it in those work plans that we put together for the FY26 budget process. We are hiring right now, so just taking this opportunity to get the word out if folks are interested. So lots of seasonal summer staff at EJRP, and we are looking for a licensed child care site coordinator. Events coming up, very exciting. Memorial Day, that is on the 24th. Pre-parade starts at 9:30. Parade itself starts at 10. We may organize things just slightly differently because we have the Crescent Connector open and operational for the first time. So I think everything will kind of run in the same place that it is running now, but we might be able to kind of close things off in a little bit of a different way. Then we've got the Pride Glow Run, which sounds very exciting. Starts at 9 p.m. dark, so that's cool. And then the Pride Festival on Saturday, the 31st at noon at Maple Street. Resources, again, so just got some links right here, so you can find the charter, the code of ethics, and a variety of other things. Also, put the Declaration of Inclusion on here, so just wanted to point that out. Essex Reporter just did an article recently on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The original digital version didn't include that we had this. The city does have Declaration of Inclusion. It was adopted in 2022. That is now on the City Council's website and here to access as a resource. I think that's it. Any questions?
Just a statement that I appreciate, it's not the same presentation as last year.
Okay.
So thank you.
There'll be a quiz later.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm sure the residents have also found that very useful.
Awesome. Okay. Then just in the packet here, we've got, I'm not going to go through this, but the, sorry, Commissioner of, Ethics Commission. The State Ethics Commission put together this really pretty useful guide to kind of think through the municipal code of ethics and really help define for yourself if you've got a conflict coming up. Then this quick guide also tells you what to do if you do have a conflict. So that is helpful resource. So that's in the packet as well. It is also on our website because we also have an ethics page where there is information about how to file a complaint if you've got one in the community.
Thank you, Regina. All right, so if there are no counselor questions, I will open it up to the public to see if there's any questions on that excellent presentation. Risa.
Thank you. I do have one question. Under the roles, it showed our excellent city manager, Regina, as being responsible for being the personnel manager. We have an HR manager. So we have an HR director, and if that's Colleen, and if Regina is doing that as well, that's a little confusing. Is there a part where it goes from Colleen to Regina, or is it that anything Colleen's level up becomes part of Regina's bailiwick, or how that works? Thank you.
Good question. Regina, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Yeah, I think the main point of this bullet, Risa, is that the manager is the only person who can hire and fire. So really that key position is with the manager. There is a whole slew of work that Colleen does in the nitty gritty of getting advertisements out, vetting applicants, getting everybody properly aligned with their benefits that they've got with the city, keeping up with the HR file systems, helping folks with interviewing processes, a whole slew of things that I certainly don't have the time for, and collectively that level of work is much more work than either one of us could do independently, if that helps.
It does. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question. Are there any other questions online? Just raise your hand. All right, I am not seeing any. So we can move on to the discussion and consideration of city council representation on the governance committee, and I believe that's back to you, Regina.
I believe we're pretty clear on this, but just since Brian was elected to the city council, Brian was a community member on the governance committee, and we had 2 representatives from the council on the governance committee. So can't have 3 council members on the governance committee. My understanding is that Marcus, you are going to come off the governance committee,
Correct.
and Brian and Elaine will do that work, but we just need to do that here as a body.
Okay. And you're gonna post a position for a member in the community?
We already done that step because we were advertising. Oh, which I should say, can't believe I didn't say it during the orientation presentation. Committee appointments are open and out there. So all kinds of things to apply for. So the community should do that if they're interested in participating.
Thank you for that reminder. So I guess we need a motion on this, and there is a motion in the packet.
So I'll
Tim.
move to appoint Elaine and Brian to the governance committee.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Excuse me.
Whoops. Sorry, I can't see you, Brian.
No, it's all right.
Just yell.
Forgive me, but it seems to me there are 3 people on there, and this is actually reappointing people. Don't we have to remove Marcus and then appoint this? Shouldn't the motion be better formed that way?
I have already stepped off the committee. I've already acknowledged that I've stepped off. Therefore, I think it's just a matter of reasserting the appointment. Technically, I don't think we necessarily need to reappoint Elaine. I think this would be the actual motion probably should be that we move to appoint City Councilor Sheldon to the governance committee.
That makes more sense.
All right. I will take that as a friendly amendment.
Wonderful.
And Tim seconds that friendly amendment.
We'll second that friendly amendment. Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you, guys. All right, so next is discussion and consideration of July through December city council meeting date adjustments.
Do this twice a year. We take a look at the calendars with religious and cultural significance dates and just make sure that we are not aligning any of your meetings on those dates. So for July through December, the conflicts that were identified are Thanksgiving holiday and Christmas holiday. So we've got some recommendations here in terms of adjustments for that purpose. There are no conflicts in July or August, but we have sometimes canceled a July or August meeting, just acknowledging that folks are on vacation. So that's there just for you to consider if you would like. Also, budget day is typically held that first or second week in December. So just pointing that out here as well. So the recommendation is to cancel that second November meeting. That is typically what we have done in November. And then the recommendation is to move that second meeting in December to December 17th for now, so that we've got that, because we probably can't rely on only 2 meetings in 2 months. So the recommendation is to shift that one. And then we can sort out when budget day makes sense as we get a little bit closer.
Regina, do you need a formal motion for this, or do you just need here's the general thoughts of council?
I think it's fine if it's just the general, if there's consensus, that's fine.
Okay. So then the recommendation is to cancel the fourth Wednesday meeting in November and move the December 24th meeting to December 17th. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. And then the second is consider whether modifying the date and number of meetings to be held in July and August. I'll just say my preference is to leave it for tonight and to adjust them if we don't have agenda items for that particular meeting. That would be my preference, but I'm open to thoughts from the rest of the council.
Leave them which way, Amber? Leave them.
Leave them as regularly scheduled meetings and then cancel the meeting if there's no agenda items to discuss.
Clarification.
As opposed to removing it off the calendar now, and then my concern is that we always end up with having an inflated agenda for July or August because we're only having one meeting versus having two meetings. And so if that doesn't end up being the case and we really only need, we have 6 items on one agenda, then we can just cancel that second meeting, but not cancel it today.
Again, I'm agreeable to
Straw poll seems to be in agreement with you, Amber.
I'm seeing head shakes. Okay. Regina, you got what you need?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. All right, so as soon as I can get my computer thingy to work here, we'll go back to the agenda, but I believe, all right, I'll go to the other computer. Technology, I believe we're at the executive session. Yes. Well, so we will skip ahead to the consent items. If I can get a motion to approve the consent agenda. Oh, sorry. Yep, go ahead.
So the local emergency management plan, that is a confidential document, so it's not in the public packet, but the city council has received that. We did adjust one more thing. There were phone numbers for myself and Amber that just went to the city office line as opposed to our cell phones, which the cell phone is better in an emergency. So we have switched that out just so folks are aware of that.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a
I
motion.
guess I can do it.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll
Thanks.
second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, councilor member comments and city manager report. Regina?
So just so folks are aware, we are working on a water line connection to Lincoln. The purpose of that water line connection is to serve the limited sprinkler system that we are putting in there. And we have to close the driveway to Lincoln Library Complex in order to achieve that. That work started yesterday. The hope was that work would be finished tomorrow. That may not happen. So just heads up, the Houghtons are very thankful to them, are okay with folks going in and out of the Maplehurst Florist driveway in this in-between time. Already said in the presentation, but Memorial Day Parade on Saturday, May 24th, so that will be very exciting. Also wanted to let folks know that myself and the Community Development Director, Chris Ewan, met with school district staff to talk about Hiawatha and that the challenges with pickup and drop-off time. The police chief has reviewed those plans as well. I think their current plan is we'll have a lot of people out, including the I still call this position the SRO. That is not what it's called anymore, but Sabrina for the police department, who is focused on school district work. She will be out as well, really trying to educate folks about really moving through there quickly. We will continue to monitor that and talk with them and figure out if there are any further adjustments that need to be made there. That is it.
Thank you. Counselors?
Nothing from this side.
Okay. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone who helped on Green Up Day, regardless of when you did it. I know there was a lot of green bags around the city. Glad to see that. And just a thank you to the staff for allowing me to participate on Friday afternoon, take a couple hours off of work and pick up some trash alongside the Crescent Connector. So appreciate it. All right, so the last item we have is an executive session. So I know there's a motion somewhere in this packet here. Somebody. All right, hit us, Marcus.
I move that the city council make the specific finding that premature disclosure of the contractual matters would place the city at a substantial disadvantage. I move that the city council enter into executive session to discuss a contract pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1A to include the city council, city manager, and Mark Brislin.
Can you get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
There
All
is
right.
also a second motion.
Oh, yep, I think that was on the first. Yeah, Marcus, you got that one too, or?
I got you. I move that the city council enter into executive session to discuss the appointment of public officials pursuant to 1 VSA 313A3 to include the city manager.
Can you do a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I believe we are gonna come out of executive session potentially, maybe not, with a, we might come back. We may or may not, I guess. All right, so I will make a motion to appoint Wendy Pringle to the Tree Farm Management Group Board with a term expiring June 30th, 2027. Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, guys. Congratulations, Wendy, and thank you for stepping up. Appreciate it. All right, so that concludes our business for the night. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Have a good.